All right, just got back from seeing Look Back in theaters. Man, that's a hell of a movie. I was kind of expecting it, and it pretty much matched my expectations, and in some ways went a little bit beyond them. I am a huge fan of Look Back, the manga. If you're not familiar, this is a Tatsuki Fujimoto manga one shot. It's the same guy who did Chainsaw Man and Fire Punch, and Goodbye Eri. And man, they really brought this manga to life in like the most interesting way they could with the medium of film. I love the way that they took the aspects of what made the manga great as a manga and just sort of reinterpreted them to make a the best aspects of what makes this film great as a film. Like, I love the way that the Four Komas manga that Fujino draws are like turned into sort of like animated spectacles. Like the first kiss, what's it called? The first kiss one, just this bonkers, super vibrant, colorful zaniness, or just the one that she slips under Kiyomoto's door of the shut-in competition, just like, which was a bit more limited but still very like fun and goofy. I love the way that that was interpreted visually. Really, I love the way everything was interpreted visually in this film. This is such a incredible looking film in pretty much all areas. I did get a little bit concerned with like the very first like shot, right? I think it's actually the second shot of like the camera zooming down on Fujino's house, because it's like a little stuttery, but that's literally the only shot where I was like, oh, is this not gonna be quite as good as I was hoping? No, fucking everything else is incredible. Just like, no matter what kind of style it goes for, whether it's like the more traditional anime style of like very limited work, or like stuff that I'm pretty sure is rotoscoped, or just stuff that's just pure sakuga for like so these incredibly long sakuga shots. Like this skipping scene is just so incredible. Like, I did not think that it was possible to, well, not that it was possible, but let's put it this way, I didn't think it was possible in this anime climate for something to look that fucking cool. And just the way that the visuals bring out the emotions of these characters, the way, like, again, that the moment where Fujino realizes that, sees Kiyomoto's work for the first time and immediately realizes, oh god, she is so much better than me. That reaction face of like shock and disgust and like self-hate is just so good and funny. I forgot that Look Back is actually a really funny manga as well. Like, there's a lot of great jokes in it. The reason I forgot that is because of the thing that kind of overshadows Look Back. I will talk about that at the very end. That's kind of like a big spoiler for Look Back. If you haven't read it or by this point, I will save that for the end and I will talk about it. Until that point, review is going to be spoiler free. But I just absolutely love, like, the color design is just so cool. Like, a lot of the colors look very flat, but surprisingly it works in really bringing this world to life in like very interesting ways. Just like the specific shades and hues that are used. Of course, it's because the character designs are really great at conveying emotion, and just they're so very malleable. And also the backgrounds are just so gorgeous. And I'm sorry, I'm just listing off all of the things that are really cool about this, but in particular I really like the facial expressions of these characters and the like actual acting. This, if this was not, I believe, if I recall correctly, Kiyotaka Oshiyama, who's the director, actually keyframed the majority of this film and actually like just did in-betweens for a lot of the film too, or at least some of it. And I think that is really what brings this film to life in the best way possible. Just this, like, when this isn't a case of like, wow, I can't believe one guy did all of this. No, it's like, wait, one guy did all of this? Holy shit. Like, in the sense of like this very, almost sort of unified, almost artistic vision, just the way that in how incredibly like detailed the character acting is and how the expressions come across. There is so much complexity in how these characters look and act and interact with each other, and it's all conveyed so brilliantly. And the characters in this are just so great. I mean, like, this is a 57-minute film, I believe. Maybe a little bit longer. And boy, they get as much characterization as they possibly can out of every single minute. Just the way, the haughtiness of Fujino that is immediately has its legs cut out from under it by Kiyomoto, despite the fact that Kiyomoto isn't like hostile about that in any way. Just me like, I'm your biggest fan energy, despite the fact that Kiyomoto is so much better than Fujino. Well, Fujino's got, it's like that, sort of like that classic manga duo dynamic where one's got the ideas and the framing and the other has like the drawing skill. Very Bakuman coded. I'm ashamed to admit I didn't even realize until this film that Fujino and Kiyomoto, it's Fujimoto. I didn't realize that until the film. I feel stupid for not realizing that. But the way that these characters grow and just intertwine together in as a manga duo, as they like sort of just bang out one shot after one shot, and the way that they like grow as like teenagers and become more confident in themselves, become more complex people as they interact with the world a little more, and the way they interact with each other, the way that Fujino is able to draw Kiyomoto out of her shell, out of this like hyper shut-in nature, and turn her into like a more a human who is able to stand on her feet a little more, which leads to some conflict later in the film. Like this, that one, there's just this scene where it's just incredible, where they have this fight and it's just incredibly emotional, not because it's like over the top or anything, but because it's like these characters really care so deeply about each other, but like ego and selfishness and just like not wanting to admit certain things really makes this like an incredibly emotional point in the film. Like, I wasn't expecting to like start tearing up that early in the film because but man, it really got to me. There's just and it's all like surrounded by this beautiful, very simple piano score. Like in the theater showing, they had like interview with Oshiyama afterwards, and he mentioned like the that the score sounded like the piano was right next to you, and it's like that is a perfect way to describe it. It is just this very intimate piano sound that is able to just express this overflow of emotions that these characters experience as they continue to draw and get better at drawing, and as they become to understand why it is that they draw and why they are slaving away over the art that they create. And this, like, if you've been following me long enough, you know that this is exactly the kind of shit that I love. Just this exploration of why are you making art. It's just this very beautiful, like this, at one point it's like they literally ask that. It's like, so why are you drawing, Fujino? Why are you doing this? And it's answered with this, well, it's kind of not answered, but it is answered just through visuals, and it's just incredibly beautiful, as well as just incredibly heartbreaking. I'm about to dive into spoiler stuff now, so I'm going to say, if you still have a chance to go out and see this tomorrow, please go out and see it, or whenever G-Kids puts out a Blu-ray for it, you gotta get on this if you are in any way interested in the craft of art in any way. It is an incredible example of the artistic spirit and what drives people to want to make art and get better at art. I'm feeling a decent 9 on this one, maybe even a strong 9. This is just phenomenal. And now, the spoilery part, because I don't know if it's ever been directly confirmed, but at one point, so like I think it's about 2/3 into the film, Kiyomoto is just suddenly murdered by a random psychopath in like a spree killing, which I believe, again, I don't know if it's been ever directly confirmed, is supposed to sort of be a parallel to the KyoAni arson from 2018, I think that was, because the manga, I believe, came out right after, like a year after that, I think. So it's kind of hard to not see the parallel there. And it's just the moment where, see, having read the manga, it was kind of hard. It was hard for me to watch the film without that knowledge, like just knowing that is going to hit you like a fucking brick truck. And boy, it does. It's just that moment in the film is just so incredibly like hollow, and like they just, all of the sound cuts out. There's just no, and like it's very tasteful the way that it's done, if you're wondering. It's just the way that Fujino reacts to it, and the way that she just sort of spirals into depression, and because she thinks that it's all her fault for drawing Kiyomoto out of her room and sending her on the path that would lead to her eventual demise. And that's where we get this sort of like regret almost of like, I wish I hadn't done this. Maybe she would have been better off if I hadn't. And it's sort of like the same parallel. It's the final sort of, I wouldn't call it a dream sequence, but it's sort of like a parallel world sequence almost of what where it's basically like, yeah, Kiyomoto would have eventually gone down the same path, um, sort of, but also adding in this weird fantasy, like super, almost superhero-ish bit at the end, where it's like this. It's see, I'm having trouble expressing it just because it's so like on an emotional level, just this swirling mass of like regret and yearning and just melancholy, and it's just so good. I'm really at a loss for words on this one. It is phenomenal. Like, I think the only reason why I'm not leaning into like 10 territory is because like I'm gonna need another viewing for that, because it's like, have again, the knowledge of what was going to come was kind of just overshadowing the rest of the film for me. And so I think I need to look at it with a fresh, with another viewing now, knowing now how it's all laid out. But even then, I think, even if you do know, it's still an incredible viewing, just seeing how these characters grow and intertwine with each other, and the way that they express their artistic passion and the drive that they have. It's just so it real it really gets me, man. So yeah, watch Look Back. It's phenomenal. And so that's it for today. Apparently the My Hero movie comes out next week, so I'm gonna actually I think it comes out in like 5 days actually. So that'll be the next time you see me for that. In the meantime, check out the seasonal wrap-up show and some of my podcasts and all the other stuff I've done. My name is Ember, and I'll see you next time.